Hello and welcome to this episode of Dwarf Talk. So I am the Baboon Lord and I just returned from the Nordic Game Conference, so excuse me if my throat is a little sore. It's a cool conference in Malmo in Sweden for developers and business people and so on in the game industry. So it comes with some beers sometimes, and I just returned, so I'm excited but also a little used from that. But I'll do my best to be super energetic here. So what I wanted to cover today is that we went through a lot of debate on the Discord server in the most recent week about the integration of PvE and how we would go about that. And you gave something like 1100 plus votes and opinions on that, plus like 500 messages of comments. So that has been super useful. And I wanted to cover some of the aspects of that, some of the questions you had there. I wanted to shine a light on how we're going to approach PvE. So this is a little, you could say, 5 things that we think about PvE and where we want to take it kind of list. So number 1, we conceptually think of the modes as PvE are campaigns that has no end duration. They just exist and are essentially permanent, and they will not be wiped. Whereas PvP are online seasons that has a duration. They start and they end, and then they're replaced with something new. So this is conceptually how we think about it. So this means that you can continue on your PvE campaign. It will not be wiped. And essentially this touches about on number 2, which is that PvE won't wipe. Related to the first concept, we are just gonna allow you to play and continue on your PvE campaigns, and you may have multiple of them, because conceptually we are thinking about it as expansions. So after launch we would develop new expansions. When a new expansion comes online, it replaces the current season with that and its new rule set and all the content and so on, and then it becomes also a playable PvE campaign, and there can be multiple playable PvE campaigns based on all the expansions we have released. So that means you could say 3 expansions into the game's cycle, you would essentially be able to choose between 3 different PvE campaigns, and the PvP season would always be the most recent expansion. So this does allow you to go and play some old legacy campaigns if we can make all that work, but this is definitely the plan so far. Number 3, PvE should not be effective for playing PvP. So what this means is that we absolutely do not want to incentivize, let's say, Peter over here, who is very excited about PvP. We do not want to make a situation where he thinks it's the most efficient to play PvE for a period of time, because that progression makes him faster in PvP. We do not want that. So whatever we do in how we develop this, this is something we look out for, so there will be no efficient progression, or at least it won't be more efficient than if you were just playing PvP. So that was number 3. Then number 4 is that we believe that PvE will actually increase the amount of players who play PvP, at least in the long term. And I think this was heavily debated, that, splitting the player base and so on. So this comes from us having had Minion Masters out there for like 6 years or more, and having tried a lot of things there. And what worked really well for us there was when we added many more ways for new players to train the game in a context where they wouldn't be essentially utterly defeated by experienced players, or players who had just maybe had 5-10 hours more into the game, because that had a huge effect on their chances of winning. And we didn't want new players to come in and just get defeated. So as we added more ways to integrate with the game in PvE and so on, and against some bots and so on, we saw players putting many more hours into it and essentially learning all the complex systems of that game. And then we saw them stay much longer for PvP, which kind of also makes sense. Like it's more interesting to participate in a tournament of chess if you actually know the rules well first, as opposed to just learning it the hard way. So we think that PvE will enable this to a large degree. Number 5, the last thing, is that playing PvE should prepare you and make you better in PvP. This means that we are not interested in making essentially separate modes with different types of content and so on. We actually want them to be totally similar. So this means that if you play the PvP if you played a PvE all the P's, if you played a PvE campaign, then you will learn all the ins and outs of that, and it can translate very much to PvEVP. The new thing is just, of course, that you would have a little bit more meta there and having to deal with real player skill. But this is very important for you to having the feeling of graduating into that experience as well. So hopefully these 5 things gave you a much better idea of where we think it's a good way to take the PvE and why we think they are amazing modes in Symbiosis. And I hope this can continue the conversation. Feel very much inclined to answer or give your opinions on all this, and we'll read through your comments. It has been amazing to follow it during the last week, and it's super educative. So appreciate that you're so vocal and constructive in the debates. Toodaloo, and have a great day.